What is going on, you guys? I have a very, very special day ahead of me today. It is report card day. This is where we get to see the results of all of our hard work. No, I am not in school. Graduated many years ago, but we do have an important test coming up here in 30 minutes. And that test is our in-body scan, where we will be sending electronic impedance through our circuitry to find out what our body fat levels are, how much lean tissue we're holding, how much skeletal mass we have. I don't expect the skeletal mass to have changed, and honestly I don't expect the muscle mass to have changed, given that you don't keep accruing new muscle for the rest of your life. After you max out, you're maxed out. But I do expect, thanks to the last 2 to 3 weeks of dieting, for my body fat to be, you guys want to know what my guess is? Hey, this is going to be fun because it's going to show you just the level of grandmaster, grand wizard that I am. I haven't been tested in 6 months. I've been in a caloric surplus for a while, then I went into this caloric deficit for this little mini cut, and I can already tell you that I am probably currently between 7 and 9% body fat, and probably not 7. It's more than likely, I would say 8 to 10% body fat, probably 8 or 9. So how do I know that? I know that because I've gone through cutting cycles around 20 times at least in my life over the last 10 years, maybe 2 cuts a year. One of them more extended than the other. Like the summer cut is usually longer, but in the fall and winter I allow myself to have some extra calories, but halfway through that I do a little bit of moderation just to make sure we shave off a little bit and don't take it too far, being in a caloric surplus from usually October all the way through April. That's 6 months of extra calories, and so you can put on a little bit of weight if you're careless and you're not doing a intentional lean bulk, or main gaining as they say, eating at maintenance. Another way that I know just by the mirror what my body fat is, yeah, sure, you look at the whole body and you can see how much fat you're holding, but there's smaller cues. Your body essentially is a visual map, and the same way we used to get out paper maps and unfold them and you could see where you are based on intersections and all of that, I know based on my vascularity and level of definition roughly about what body fat I'm at. You know, like the rule of thumb for everybody is 15% or below means you have visible abs. Okay, but that's not our goal. Our goal isn't to have visible abs. I mean, that's like your, baby's first cut kind of goal, where you've never even had abs before in your life and your goal is to just see them. I have abs year round, even when I'm in peak bulk state, even when I'm in peak bulk during the fall and winter. I never let myself lose my abs, but my baseline for a successful cut is actually very, very, very crisp. Usually 7 to 9% body fat's where I like to call it for a cut that is not taking it to the full extreme of summertime peak shape of the entire year for a few weeks. That's where I try to go to like 5 to 6%, which is like borderline professional competition level leanness. And of course, I've never competed, so that's never been the intent of losing that body fat and getting into that shape. I do it purely for the mental challenge. Like, I actually enjoy the challenge of self-denial. And I'm not a masochist. In fact, I'm actually just a biblical man. I enjoy fasting, and I know that sloth and gluttony are sins. And I know that the more that we can push away those things, then the healthier relationship you will have with God. Now, I'm not saying you should take them to the extreme of becoming emaciated and to the point where you're atrophying the muscle that you have worked so hard to accrue. That's obviously not what I'm talking about. But turning away what you don't need, that very, very simple precept will keep you at a pretty low body fat your entire life. It's okay to have a little more than you need sometimes. Sure, everybody likes a nice day of indulgences, a nice cheat day. As I said, I allow myself for 6 months of the year to eat slightly above my maintenance. Slightly, maybe 10% more. If I want to have a very luxurious day, maybe 20% more. But you know, my maintenance is 2,500 calories. So 10% more would be 250 calories. 20% more would be 3,000 calories. It's so incredibly rare that I decide today I'm going to eat 4,000 calories. Like, that just doesn't happen in my life. It hasn't happened for many years. Back when I was aggressively bulking and still accumulating new muscle, I may have had some pretty awesome cheat days of 4,000 or 5,000 calories, of course. And also, even before then, when I was just sloppy and not exercising, I was unknowingly eating 4,000 calories some days, because lunch was Chipotle with friends, and then dinner was Papa John's, and I just wanted something sweet to wrap the night up, and I didn't even know that that was all 4,000 calories. Okay, sure. But in my calorie conscious days, starting 11 years ago, when I actually learned how many calories are in the foods that I'm eating and what do I need versus what do I want, I don't have days where I miss it by 1,000 calories anymore. That's just careless. I mean, you know better at that point. It's also what the Bible says. To not know that something is a sin and to transgress and commit that sin. You know, for example, if you've never read the Bible, if you were never evangelized to, for that person to commit those behaviors is less offensive to God than it is for a man who has read the Bible and who knows sloth, gluttony, pride, envy, sin, or wrath, you know, the 7 deadly sins. If you know those things and you still habitually allow yourself to indulge in those things, and you make excuses for it, and you rationalize it, God will judge you more severely than the one who has never heard the word before. So yeah, today we get to go see what the actual number says. And I have these printouts. Anytime you get an in-body scan, it literally prints out a report card saying, here's your skeletal mass, muscle mass, how much water you're holding, and of course what your body fat is, and it even breaks it down into your legs, your trunk, your arms, etc. I have those printouts, not going back the entire 10 years, but I have a lot of them. I don't always keep them, but I do try to hang on to them. And it's cool because if you go to the same gym consistently, they will actually have your login information, you know, whether you give them your phone number or whatever else, and it will hold your last check-in from last month or whatever, and it'll start to plot on a line graph the accumulation of muscle that you're earning or the loss of body fat that you're hopefully losing and not gaining, and you'll be able to see your visual trend empirically. I'm a huge numbers guy. I've always been keen on mathematics and statistics. I think they're very helpful in many aspects of life, especially understanding politics, but also in your professional career and also your dieting life. I mean, once I surrendered to the reality that calories are not a measurement of food, they're a measurement of the content of energy in the food, okay? So knowing that, all right, when you have a pizza, a whole Papa John's large pizza is 2,000 calories, something like that. It just depends on what toppings you get. But your average large pepperoni pizza, maybe one other meat on there, is 2,000 calories. People think about calories in terms of measurements of food, but that's not what it is. It's measurements of the caloric content. Kcals, kilocalories, are a measurement of energy. They're not a measurement of food. And we all know the body runs on energy, runs on essentially electricity. So once I said, all right, it's not about measuring my food that I have to worry and consciously think of what foods can I eat, what foods can I not eat. The truth of the matter is, it's calories. Whatever food those calories are coming from is irrelevant. Obviously, there's a conversation about macros and micros. Yes, we have to meet our macros critically. Like, that's a critical mission, to meet your macros. You have to have, easy rule of thumb to remember is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Technically, it's 1 gram per pound of lean muscle mass, but you need to know what your body fat percentage is in order to know what your lean muscle mass is. So if you haven't gotten your in-body scan, or if you haven't done a caliper test or a DEXA scan or a bod pod or a water displacement method, those are 5 different methods to go and get your body fat tested. If you haven't done one of those and you're just starting out and you're like, I don't know how much protein to eat. Okay, eat 1 gram per pound of body weight. That will ensure that you're more than your goal. That will ensure that you are eating more than necessary to repair the muscle after it's broken down after each exercise session and accumulate new muscle. So you have to know your protein. Carbs and fats, the other 2 macronutrients, those can frankly shift however your cravings dictate, so long as you are not exceeding your calorie budget. And as I said, this is all based on math. 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, which is why high-fat foods, it's not that the food itself is worse for you, it's that the food contains twice as many calories per gram. Okay, so when you're looking at buying milk, or you're looking at a steak versus ground beef, or full-fat cheese versus fat-free cheese, on and on and on, you have to realize that it's not the food itself, it's not the category, it's not sweets, it's not fried food, it's not whatever else you want to sub in there that is a high-calorie food. It's the macro, and by extension, the number of calories that those macros create, that matters. Which is why last night I had this huge, it's not a bowl and it's not a pan, it's a big dish, big square rectangle dish of baked spaghetti. It was absolutely awesome. 1,000-ish calories. And then after that, I had half a pint of orange cinnamon roll ice cream. And with that, I had 6 slices of cinnamon brown sugar toast. And I went to bed absolutely stuffed. And I woke up leaner this morning. Why? How? Because first and foremost, that's all of the food that I ate for the day, was that dinner and dessert, because I intermittent fast. I don't eat a single crumb, a single calorie all day until 6 p.m. Second, the spaghetti was made with these protein noodles, and I weighed them on a scale, and I made exactly 2 servings, which was 380 calories. And the protein noodles actually give you 20 grams of protein instead of basically 0 that are in your normal full carb protein or full carb noodles. And the ground beef that I used 93.7 ground beef, which is 170 calories per serving, rather than 70 or 80% lean ground beef, which would have been 250 calories per serving. And then when I added the spaghetti sauce, I measured exactly 2 servings, 240 grams at 60 calories per serving. And then when I added the cheese, I added some fat-free American cheese, which is 40 calories per slice. I added 4 of them. That was another 160 calories, 3 grams of protein each. You add up all those numbers, the whole meal is 1,000-ish calories for like 75 or 80 grams of protein. And it's very filling. It's a huge dish, as I said. And after that, I smashed this homemade protein ice cream, thanks to the Ninja Creamy that I have invested in. And that protein ice cream is made with a scoop of protein and fat-free milk. And so there's like another 20 grams of protein, 250 calories. And then I go and make my 6 slices of cinnamon toast using these low-calorie buns that are 80 calories a piece, top and bottom. So the top of the bun and the bottom of the bun are 40 calories a piece. So I use 3 buns, which means I get 6 slices for 240 calories. Cinnamon has no calories in it. I use the 0-calorie brown sugar stevia, and then just a quick hit of the cooking spray to make it adhesive. And that is how I was able to eat 6 slices of cinnamon toast and some ice cream and a giant dish of spaghetti, all for 1,600 calories last night. I think it's actually a little bit less, like 1,500 calories. And when you eat that much food all at one time, it doesn't matter that you didn't have breakfast, you didn't have lunch, you didn't have any snacks throughout the day. When volume-wise, you just put that much food into your stomach, you're not going to want any more food because you're physically full. Like, no more food sounds good because due to the physical sensation of being full, your body is telling you, sure, your maintenance might be 2,000 or 2,500 calories, but I'm physically full. And therefore, I am shutting off the hunger sensation. I'm shutting off all those thoughts and temptations about, well, I did just eat to the point that I was full, but something else still sounds good. Also, I had my sweets after I had my savory thing. So this dieting approach is something that I have refined over 10 years. The balance of if it fits your macros, intermittent fasting, all of these substitutions in ingredients, using a food scale to weigh every ingredient. This is all, as I said, grandmaster, grand wizard knowledge that I am just giving you guys. Of course, if you want to buy my book, Ascension, Achieving Physical, Spiritual, and Mental Mastery, it goes into much more detail about all these things. How to calculate your caloric needs, your baseline maintenance, how to calculate how aggressively you should cut or bulk, and macros, and the conversation about micros, the conversation about alcohol, the conversation about performance-enhancing drugs, the difference between powerlifting and hypertrophy, which is more like bodybuilding training, how many sets, how many reps, how much weight to use. It's all in there. It's 100 pages. You get to see my visual transformation of me starting out as a 26 or 27-year-old young man, skinny fat, crash dieted down to about 7% body fat, and I looked terrible. I looked like an Ethiopian. I looked like I was starving to death because I was starving to death. Not like literally they need to put me in a clinic, but I did it intentionally. I wanted to see what my body fat looked like when I stripped it all off. That gave me a visual baseline of, okay, I thought just getting lean, I thought having abs in a bicep vein creates a good physique. And I was wrong. I looked like an emaciated distance runner. I looked like, as I said, some little Ethiopian child who you can support for 50 cents a day. All right, that's not a good look. That's not aesthetic. Weighing 125 pounds as a full-grown 27-year-old man is not aesthetic. It's certainly not strong. It's certainly not a commanding presence. It certainly isn't something that portrays masculinity. And so I quickly found out after crash dieting down there at 27 years old that, all right, it's actually about muscle. You got to stack the muscle to create the physique. You can't just diet and strip all the weight off by eating salad or starving yourself. And then we got serious, very serious. I took my first bulk a little too far. Maybe I'll drop some pictures in this video, but I heard you got to eat big to get big. I heard Rich Piana saying that. I heard other famous bodybuilders saying that, Ronnie Coleman. And I ate big. I immediately put on, from 125-ish pounds, I shot all the way back up to like 155 or something like that. I put on like 30 pounds in 3 months. That is not healthy. That is not muscle. It's not sexy. It's not strength. It was gluttony is what it was, because I missed the good foods. Now, granted, you're in that newbie gain phase, so you are definitely going to accrue muscle faster if you are overeating a bit, particularly if you're consuming enough protein. But 30 pounds in a few months, you have no business gaining that much weight, because you're just going to have to diet it all off, which means interrupting your gaining phase to go in a deficit phase. And you can't really stack new muscle in a deficit. During newbie gains, it's a little different, but generally speaking, as a principle, you need to be in a caloric surplus in order to accrue new muscle. And so if you rapidly bulk, aggressively bulk, dirty bulk, whatever you want to call it, whether it's because you miss the good food or because you think you have to eat big to get big, Well, you're going to get sloppy fat in a month, 2 months, 3 months, and you're going to have to end your bulk early. And as I just said, once you have to dip back down into caloric deficit, you're cutting again, you have immediately halted and you may even atrophy some of your gains. So a slow, controlled, methodical, lean bulk, meaning a 10% calorie surplus. And all the clinical literature shows, and all the clinical, and all of the reset, and all of the clinical literature shows this as well. You don't need to be in a 1,000 calorie surplus in order to stimulate protein synthesis and new muscle growth. You need about 10% extra calories. And so for your average individual, assuming you're not 6'5" and have a former background in athletics, you probably need an extra 250, 300, maybe 400 calories tops. But you need to know, as I said before, all of this being based in math first, every pound of fat is the result of 3,500 calories worth of eating beyond your maintenance. So if you're eating plus 500 calories per day over your maintenance, then sure, you're going to be accumulating some new muscle, and that's great, but you're also going to be stacking on a pound of fat a week. A week. 500 calories times 7, 3,500 calories. 3,500 calories is 1 pound of fat. And by the way, every time you gain a pound of fat, it comes with 1 pound of water. And you can go verify all this stuff if you'd like. So you might see the scale go up 2 pounds that first week, and then another 2 pounds the second week, and you gained 8 pounds in that first month. And you're like, dude, I just gained 8 pounds of muscle. No, you didn't. The literature, as I often cite, says you can gain about 1, maybe 2 if you're still in the newbie gains phase, pound of lean muscle tissue per month that you are in a caloric surplus and you're lifting correctly, assuming you're utilizing progressive overload. So yeah, you gained 8 pounds in the first month. 1 pound of that was muscle. And so you now have 7 extra sloppy pounds after that first month. Assume you do this for 3 months, eating plus 500 calories a day. Congratulations, you gained 24 to 30 pounds, just like I did, in 3 months. Why do you look like shit? Because 3 to 4 pounds of that is muscle and the other 25 is fat and water. And now you're going to have to go on an 8 to 12 week long cut to get rid of all of that, which means you're going to spend 8 to 12 weeks not gaining muscle. So just do it right, okay? I know you want to eat big to get big. You need to do it slow and controlled. You get to enjoy some extra food, but we're not talking about Chipotle for lunch, Five Guys for dinner, cheesecake for dessert, Pop-Tarts for breakfast, slathered in maple syrup. That's not how it works, guys. I wish it were. I genuinely wish it were, because I'm a foodie. I love my food, but that's not how it works. All right, guys, I got to wrap this up. I have to get inside in 5 minutes for the big test. You see this? Hand completely stable, no jitters. It's because I'm not anxious, because I already know what the numbers are based on what I see in the mirror, the vascularity, the definition. I don't even use a scale anymore. I don't look at my weight to measure how successful my cut is going. I know based on what I just explained in the mirror about what body fat I'm at, because the scale is irrelevant. It's about the physique. It's about how it looks. All right, I gotta slam this pre-workout and then get in there, get our scan done, and I will share that with you guys on the other side of this workout. I'm not sure if I'm gonna film the workout today. It's an arm day. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, not sure. I think I might do some other errands, but either way, we'll check in after we get the results of my test. That way I can say, I told you so. Just listen to me, just follow everything I said, and you too will be aesthetic, strong, confident, masculine. It's all so easy if you just follow the formula. All right, guys, talk to you soon. All right, you guys, the test results are in, and I was wrong. I'm a little leaner than I thought I was. I said, what did I say? I said between 7 and 9. According to the InBody scan, we landed at 6.5%. Ooh, could have broke my toe there. These dumbbells flying off the bench. according to the InBody scan, we landed at 6.5% body fat. I am very pleased with those results, but this is nothing new for me. You know, I should be more excited being in the fractional percentage of the population. Not many people walking around at 6.5% body fat. But as I said, this is cut number 20 something for me. So we're not even done. I think I probably will dial it in just a little bit more, maybe for another week, or maybe just go back to maintenance mode. But for today's mission, we have to get through an arm day here, and it's going to be a quick one. Arm day is a fast day because everything is superset. We're going to do bis and tris. Because they're antagonist muscles, you're not using one while exercising the other. So after you do your bicep set, you can immediately go and do your tricep set. In the 45 seconds it takes to do your tricep set, that allows your bicep to recover, so you can immediately go do the next set of biceps. And so you're doing 3 sets of 3 movements. That gives you 9 total sets for each muscle group. So it's still a day that has 18 total sets to it, but you can burn through the whole day in 20 minutes. And that is the plan for today. So we're gonna set up here right on this bench. In fact, we're not even gonna go anywhere. We're gonna grab a couple of dumbbells and start out with some old school Arnold Schwarzenegger style concentration curls. So I'll show you how those work if you've never done them before. One of the oldest movements in the book. Everybody knows a curl, you know, curling like this. Concentration curl. Okay, cool. Can we stay in focus, please? A concentration curl is when you use the inside of your leg down here to hold your elbow in place and come down like this with the bicep. And the reason it's called a concentration curl is because if you look at the pose that I'm in, it's like you're concentrating. It's like you're thinking philosophically, very deep about life. What it means to be 6.5% body fat. What does that mean? So, let's go ahead and get this party started. I like to use my free hand to come over here and tap this muscle just to feel it as it fills up with blood. 4, 6, 7. Note the nice slow movement pattern. 10. Dozen of those, like a dozen Krispy Kremes. You can tell I'm hungry, you know. Been in a deficit for a few weeks. Got food on the mind. Four. 5, 6. No swinging at all, just slow, controlled movements. First set of biceps in the books. 8 more to go today. As I said, we'll do 3 movements of 3 sets each, which is actually a little different than all of our other days of the week. Usually we're doing 4 sets of every movement, but because we're actually hitting 2 muscles, the sheer amount of volume will still add up to 18 sets for the day, which is plenty, especially on just an arm day. A lot of people don't even have a intentional arm day because your arms are hit passively whenever you do chest or back or shoulders. You only have to do an arm day if you feel like your arms are lagging behind as compared to the rest of your upper body. So I would like a few more tricep gains. I'm pretty pleased with my biceps, but I would like a little bit more meat on the back of my arms here. Triceps have never been my strong suit, so that's my main intent of incorporating a full arm day in my routine. So for our first tricep movement, we are going to do some skull crushers. Haven't done these in a long time, not with dumbbells at least. And there are some form tips we need to go over on this to make sure you're doing them correctly. So sit back, pay attention. I'm gonna readjust the camera so it's a little bit downward so you can see me on the bench here. So we're gonna lay flat back on the bench. And you may have seen people doing these before, but you didn't know necessarily what to watch out for in terms of the true right form on these. All right, so the first mistake I'll show you that I see people do with this all the time is they have their arm completely perpendicular to the floor. It's a 90-degree angle, and then they come back like this and go straight back up, all right? Guess what? The problem with that is I can hold this weight right here forever because it's utilizing my skeleton and the stacked joints, wrist, elbow, and shoulder to hold the weight more than it is the muscle. How you correct this to make sure that your tricep is engaged the entire movement is bring the weight back here to, I don't know, maybe about a 60-degree angle. And see now my elbow, whereas it was here, now it's back here, and I'm pulling it up with a degree of, I don't know what that is, 20, 30 degrees, rather than straight up and down. 5, 6, 7, I'm losing my hat back here. 8. Other arm. So same thing. When I do this, note how my arm is not straight up and down doing this. It's going to come back here and do this. Back, and then execute the movement. All right, and that's our first set of skull crushers down. Might have to figure out a different mic solution here because the hat's not wanting to play along. All right, let's go ahead and quickly superset with our next set of concentration curls. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Nice, clean, smooth, perfect form, nothing to get fancy over. Four. All right, next set of skull crushers. We'll do these both arms at the same time. Try to speed this up a little bit. Not trying to be in here all day on an arm day.
Do you guys remember the tip? Elbows back. And I'm definitely preferring lightweight right now. Not to make excuses, but the cut does take its toll on your energy capacity. And in terms of avoiding injury, you're already depriving your body of nutrients. So we're not trying to set records. We're not trying to gain muscle right now. We're just trying to get enough stimulus to keep the muscle that we do have while in this caloric deficit. All right, last set of concentration curls. Two more. One more. Ooh. That bicep vein's starting to pop a little bit. Even got the cross veins in the bicep. Last set of skull crushers, and then we'll move on to our next set of supersets. Starting to get a little thirsty. I didn't even finish my pre-workout because I was in here trying to get this in-body scan. Didn't want to miss my appointment. Not stacked, elbows back. Remember, that's referring to your joints. Joints are not stacked on this movement. Elbows back, roughly to your ears. One more. All right, we need the rest of our pre-workout. We're 1/3 done with the day. So just got to keep chipping away, man. One set at a time, one rep at a time. Oh, okay. Let's do some hammer curls. We're gonna do these both arms at a time, just to try to keep this day moving quickly. Hammer curls means having a neutral grip like this rather than twisted. We want to avoid all swaying of the torso, so we're not doing this and swinging the weights around. We are locked down like a sculpture. Beautiful. All right. Next up, we're going to do overhead tricep extensions with the dumbbell. So we'll just do a little easy, lightweight shoulder press, get that above us. Keep that elbow back by the ear. I think we can go a little heavier on those. That was a little too easy. Had to compensate with some extra reps. But we'll do that next set. Yeah, we'll definitely bump the weight up a little bit on those next time. Next set of hammer curls. Do these from the side for you here. As promised, we'll use a little bit more weight on these skull crushers. Standing skull crushers or overhead tricep extension, whatever you would like to call it. Still a little light, but I'm really not trying to push it today. As I said, this is maintenance mode. You guys should be in the 8 to 12 rep range. If you can do 15 weights, or 15 sets, if you can do 15 reps, you need to up the weight. Oh. And then one more set of each of those, and we'll be moving on to our final 2 movements of the day. Told you guys, arm day goes quick. Six, 7, trying to pivot a little bit so you guys can see that we're keeping our torso locked down. None of this. We don't swing the weights up like this. I can do 10 million of those. That's it for our curls. Let's get one more set of overhead extensions in. I got the wrong weight. It's a little too easy. All right, last set of overhead extensions. Six. One more. All right, we just got one more set of biceps, one more set of triceps, and then we're done for the day. How's the pump looking? How's our battery looking? Oh, 11%. All right, battery's gonna die, so I gotta figure out what I can show you guys for these last 2 movements. And we probably won't be able to record all 3 sets, but you'll at least know which movements we wrapped up the day with. I'm thinking close grip push downs, which are hitting your triceps, and then some other curl. Oh. All right, guys. We're gonna do close grip. You might call these diamond push-ups. So your hands are like that. Get your chest over your hands. Keeping those elbows tucked in. Whew. Brutal. All right, guys. Last set of biceps for the day, and then we're getting out of here. Hit up the grocery store on the way back. Camera has about 7% body fat, 7% battery. I'm the one at 6.5% body fat, and I got the report card to prove it. And I got the serratus and the obliques and the vascularity, the definition, all of the above. But enough talk. Let's hit this last set of curls. All right, so earlier we did hammer curls, which are these, neutral grip. These, we're gonna open our palms up and turn our pinky in, out towards our shoulder. All right, so now the switch up. Twisting that pinky out. All right, guys. According to my monitor here, we have 1% battery left. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks for joining me for this arm day. Check out the report card. You too can be 6.5% body fat. Just follow the directions. Go get my book if you need it, or just watch the channel. You get all the information for free, but you have to wait for each episode. If you want all the spoilers, go get the book, beholdenthetruth.com. Ascension, Achieving Physical, Spiritual, and Mental Mastery.
Our country is at an inflection point. We can all feel it. And now is not the time to be a physically, mentally, or spiritually weak man. I've spent the last 10 years creating a blueprint for unfucking your life up, and it's a lot more than cleaning your room. How to achieve physical, mental, and spiritual mastery gives you a layman's understanding of how to master dieting and exercise, get the most out of your time, build ironclad mental fortitude, and leverage your faith to become a role model among men, something we desperately need right now in this time of war. I break down how to create a sustainable, flexible diet from scratch, how to organize your fitness routine, supplementation, and I dispel many myths and provide many red pills on dieting and exercise. The book is on sale right now at beholdenthetruth.com for 20% off. Or you can get a free copy if you're a founding member of my Substack, which would also include a one-on-one 30-minute session with yours truly where you can ask me anything. Go to beholdenthetruth.com right now to become the man that you were meant to be, and the man that we desperately need you to be.